Hi everyone, this is Paul here from the Magdalene Centre. Today I'm doing the astrology report for the week commencing the 25th of July, outlining some of the key aspects and transits for the week and change of direction in the case of two of the planets in the sky, and I'll be outlining the basic themes that this entails for us all. Before I do that, I just want to clarify, as I always do, that the astrology doesn't control our lives. It's merely a way of helping us to understand what the energies around us are doing, what lessons are available for us to be learning at this time, or what are key lessons that will help us move forward and empower ourselves further on our individual journeys. Though obviously the lessons manifest in different ways for each and every one of us because we're all different and we all have our own unique life paths to follow. But as I said, the astrology doesn't control us. It's merely a way of helping us to understand what lessons need to be learned at this time and what kind of themes are playing out in the collective consciousness that we need to be made aware of, so that we're less likely to react to how people behave and more likely to respond to it. Now, the theme of this week's astrology is all about the transformation of consciousness through the facing and releasing of the past and embracing a more encompassing way of perceiving things, so elevating the level of thinking beyond any rigid thought patterns we have, and to see a more all-encompassing viewpoint that takes into account the collective aspect of things. So with the moon this week, she starts off in Capricorn, and this is a time where we may feel need to take action or to put into practice the ideas and beliefs that we've been exploring and see how they manifest externally. And it's also a time of taking personal responsibility for how our lives pan out and the actions that we take, so that what we're doing is more aligned with who we are. Then on Friday, the moon moves into Aquarius. This is a time of kind of taking a step back and kind of that need for space, both for ourselves and to honour other people's need for space, as a time to observe the fruits of our labours, to observe what is our role like within the community, how involved are we, and how connected do we feel to the people around us. Before on Monday, the moon moves into Pisces, and this is a time for things like meditation, connecting with the ebb and flow of the natural currents of life, and to engage in some kind of spiritual practice to help us feel the spiritual energies around us, and to make it a part of our daily lives rather than just something that we think about but we don't actually practice. Now, in terms of what's going on in terms of key events this week, the biggest one is going to be on Friday. This is a lunar eclipse in Aquarius, but there are some other aspects taking place which start just beforehand. So we're going to have an exact square between the Sun and Uranus on Wednesday, and this brings into focus the challenge of needing to transform our sense of self-identity through our relationship with creativity and the way we express ourselves, through allowing insights from the higher mind to show us where we need to be making changes in our lives, so that our lives are a more accurate reflection of who we are and we're being our authentic selves to other people. So it's seeing or allowing the insights to come through the intuition and to get comfortable with the necessity of change and listen to the insights and then apply them. Squares energy often requires to take some kind of action in order for us to actually make the most of things. Otherwise they create that niggling irritation that often prompts us to take action to resolve the discomfort. And in this case, it's the necessity of incorporating the insights that we gain from the higher mind as to who we are and to embody those principles. And the following day, on Thursday, Mercury is going to be turning retrograde, and it will be entirely within the sign of Leo, and this will continue up until about the 19th of August. And it'll be a time for us to reflect on creativity, our relationship with play, and also how comfortable are we with creativity, and what is our relationship, or how well do we express ourselves authentically, and what are we creating with our words? Because Leo is all about creativity, it's about connecting with the divine creative force, but recognizing that we're the channel for that force. We're not the force itself. And with Mercury, it's about what we're creating with our thoughts, what we're creating with our words, and what direction do we need to be moving in, and where do we need to become more spontaneous. So with creativity, are we in contact with it, or do we just think we don't have it because we're used to creativity being defined by very narrow social expectations? And instead, creativity comes in many different forms. We're all creative beings at the end of the day, and we're always creating with our minds. And so it's important that we pay close attention to what we're creating and how comfortable are we with the idea of play, because play and creativity go hand in hand. The more comfortable we are with playing things, the more the imagination is unlocked, the more creative we can become, and the more we can make creative changes in our lives to more closely honour our creative spirits. As I was saying a bit before, the most important event will be the lunar eclipse in Aquarius. This is going to be at 9:20 here in the UK, which is basically 8:20 universal time. And this is about, it brings about endings of sorts, but with this being in Aquarius, what we're looking at is where do we need to let go of rigid thinking? Where do we need to let go of ways of perceiving that we feel comfortable with but are actually keeping us stuck and make us more likely to be possessive or afraid of other people's beliefs and other people's perceptions? It's understanding or moving beyond the personal level of consciousness and into a more collective or humanitarian way of seeing things. It's moving beyond the purely self-perception and everything being related to the self, and moving into a more expanded level of perception where we recognise that we're all part of the same collective consciousness, we're all connected, nothing happens in isolation, so whatever we're doing has an impact on other people. What may not be directly, maybe more indirectly, but everything that we're doing holds some kind of significance. I'm not saying it means that any of us are more important than each other, but what I'm saying is that we all have the potential to influence a collective consciousness around us, and therefore the onus is on us to take personal responsibility for this. And at the same time as the lunar eclipse, we're going to have the exact opposition between Sun and Mars. Mars is conjunct this lunar eclipse, so with the Mars retrograde reaching the full opposition, we need to be very careful of projection here. We need to be very mindful of what anger or what anxiety we're releasing, where are we projecting thwarted desires onto other people, and where do we project that anger onto others. The ruler of this particular eclipse is going to be Uranus, and this Uranus is in Taurus at the moment, so the kind of transformation going on collectively here is at the level of values and our relationship with resources, relationship with the environment. So part of the challenge here is to see where do we still cling to need to surround ourselves with resources or to attract material things to feel secure, and where are we out of alignment with the organic cycles of life, because everything operates in cycles. Nothing truly operates in a straight line. That only happens in human thinking. The world around us is naturally cyclical, and for us to truly feel secure, we need to work with those cycles, to move with the cycles of life rather than trying to fight against them. And with the eclipse in Aquarius, we're also looking at how can we how can we work in a more loving way, but not the attached kind of love, and more, I would normally say detached, but it's more like non-attachment, because I don't mean detached as in cold and purely thinking. What I mean is that we're able to love unconditionally, and if someone else doesn't know how to receive that and they don't reciprocate it, we don't take it personally, because we feel comfortable with who we are, we feel we're able to show unconditional love because we have that humanitarian spirit. We recognise deep down that we are all interconnected, we are one, as it were. But if other people don't recognise that level, or haven't reached that level of perception, we don't take it personally if they reject the kind of love that we give. We just accept that they're not comfortable with it for whatever reason, so be it, that's their issue. And the more we can let go of any kind of possessive tendencies and any tendencies towards jealousy or the need for attention or validation from other people, and instead release any tendencies towards pride and instead connect with who we are, because in some respects this eclipse asks us, who are we, who do we see ourselves as being, and what past conditioning do we need to let go of. With the lunar eclipse, it's the past meeting the future, and if we want to move forward and if we want to become the best versions of ourselves, then whatever is coming up from our past at this time, we need to put it to bed. We need to let go of it. I'll do a more in-depth report on the eclipse as a separate video because there's so much I can go through that it needs its own video in its own right. But ultimately, this eclipse, which is the main feature of the whole week, is going to be about letting go of the past, of letting go of rigid thinking and embracing more expanded perception, of no longer taking things personally, and recognising that we are all interconnected and we do have a responsibility to the collective whole. But for that to happen, we have to take personal responsibility for ourselves. We have to become the best versions of ourselves, so connecting with our own creativity, of connecting with who we are and expressing that towards other people. So embracing play, embracing creativity, and embracing spontaneity in life, because spontaneity is something some people are naturally good at it because they haven't had it conditioned out of them for whatever reason, or they've resisted that conditioning. For some of us, we struggle with that spontaneity, so this is a time for learning it. So the last thing happening during this week is Vesta is turning direct on the 31st, which is Tuesday. Vesta's been retrograding first to Capricorn and now into Sagittarius, and this is a test of our integrity. It's been testing whether we're committed to our own truths, committed to honouring ourselves and obviously honouring other people at the same time, or do we just slide through life? Do we just go through the flow of what everyone else is doing, and we agree to do things even though they're not in our best interest or not right? And it's with Vesta turning direct, it's time to apply whatever insights we learn, apply whatever lessons that we gained during the course of the Vesta retrograde. Because the thing is, even if we've learnt things from the Vesta retrograde, it makes no difference if we don't apply it. So if we want to keep moving forwards, then it's not enough to have gained an intellectual insight into issues we have around commitment. We actually have to apply those insights. It's through the embodiment of those lessons that we learn that we demonstrate the fact that we have learnt things, and we become more empowered as a result. Because if we don't apply things, and if we don't apply the insights, if we don't apply lessons to our life, nothing's actually going to change. It's just concepts in our minds that we've picked up. We may feel proud of ourselves for learning it, but have we actually applied it? If not, we may as well be back at square one again, because we haven't actually changed. We haven't taken responsibility for being true to who we are and only committing to things which are right for who we are and match our own philosophy and our own code of ethics. If they don't, then really we shouldn't be committing to it in the first place. So there's a lot to take on board this week, but as I said, this is a week of transformation, primarily through facing the old and releasing it, but also learning to connect with our own creativity and to develop a better understanding of our own unconscious impulses and the way we exercise creativity and our relationship with it. So if we embrace the lessons this week, if we embrace the overall themes, and we remember to when things are occurring around us that seem a bit chaotic, take that step back, take a breath to center ourselves, and to try and see things objectively. So be aware of the bigger picture and not just the small details, and move beyond personal consciousness and see things from a more expanded perception, where we recognise how everything is interconnected, and what's happening in one area can also be reflected in other areas of life. So if we want to, or if we truly desire to be empowered, then we need to be applying the lessons that we learn as we go along, and embody the principles that we learn rather than just spouting them, because otherwise we just end up being hypocrites, and other people, well within their right sense, say, well, why should I care what you're saying if you're not actually practicing what you preach? So I hope that this coming week brings you many insights and much transformation, so that you become more empowered in your life, and I hope in the process that life becomes more spontaneous, more free, and more adventurous in some respects. But this all comes down to, do we choose to pursue a path of love, or do we pursue the path of fear? If we choose love, then this requires that we take responsibility for ourselves, but in the process we free ourselves from our past, and we empower ourselves to take a more expansive view of the future, and we see more possibilities in life, and we see great potentials for us to create new things in life that benefit not just ourselves but the wider world around us. But it's up to each and every one of us to do this. Nothing happens automatically. We actually have to initiate things and take the action required to make it happen. So take care. May you have a blessed week.